I'm Cynthia Mbamalu, Director of Programs, Yiaga Africa.
Can you tell us about today's event?
So we're in Lagos, Yiaga Africa, in partnership with UK Aid, to carry out our community organizing training for young women in Lagos State. And the community organizing training is designed to build the capacity of young women to become leaders in their communities, and so build leadership capacities among young women, but also to help build capacities around organizing for social change and political participation, especially as we move towards the next elections. We believe that Lagos plays plays an important role in politics in Nigeria. But beyond that, we also believe that the participation of young people, especially young women, is critical to support democratic development in Nigeria. And the young organizers, these young women, after this training, would be going back to their communities to engage their peers, to engage their communities on the importance of participation, but most importantly, to organize and mobilize more women, especially young women, to participate in the process. The community organizing training is one of our activities under the Turn Up Democracy project. And Turn Up Democracy, like the name implies, the goal is to continually conduct or carry out intentional activities that gives life to our democracy and that ensures democratic sustainability in Nigeria.
So why do you think we need to build a democracy that works in Nigeria?
And because if democracy does not work, people lose faith and trust in the system. Already, we're beginning to see a lot of Nigerians question the whole concept or the whole idea of democracy. People are already giving up because the system has not delivered what we call the dividends of democracy. However, we believe that any system that functions only functions because the people make it work, and which is why these projects and a lot of things a lot of other civil society partners are doing is targeted at inspiring hope amongst Nigerians to not give up in the fight to the democracy that we deserve. Nigeria deserves a system that works for its people. Nigerians deserve a system that truly provides to their needs and caters to their needs. So we would keep engaging because we believe democracy is a system that can deliver its dividends, but it's not working at the moment. But we can work together to ensure the system begins to function and produce leaders that would truly be responsive to the needs of the people.
So for us to produce a good leader, what should the leader do to ensure that Nigeria's economy stabilizes and the citizens benefit from the democracy?
Well, to ensure our leaders deliver on their mandate, I think there are two folds. First, there's the demand side and there's the supply side. And the demand side is from the people. As Nigerians, especially as we move towards the next elections, campaigns begin in some days' time and based on the law. As campaigns begin, we need to engage candidates differently and political parties differently, asking them what they have for the people and how they intend to achieve those plans they have. We just don't want mere promises. We want to see the how. Now, that is one way to get leaders to respond to our needs. That during this campaign, we say no to the monies they want to give to us and to the gifts they want to give for people to support them, but rather engage them on their content and their quality. Because if we can get in the people that have the character, the capacity, and competence into office, then they can begin to deliver. And then for the leaders, we believe that at this stage that we are in, Nigerians do not deserve people that do not know how to get things done. Our leaders have a responsibility first to the people because leadership is about service. Leadership is not for selfish and personal interests. And there are currently issues around insecurity, the economy, education. Our students are still out of school because of the long strike. Talk about the poor education system and quality of education. Talk about poverty and youth unemployment. There are so many issues, and we need our leaders to begin to engage the people. Talk with the people. Let us understand how to solve this problem. For where you do not know how to solve it, let us get in the best minds into office. And for leaders, their responsibilities to people. Any leader that is not ready to account to Nigerians does not deserve to be in office. And it's a call to Nigerians in the next elections. We have the power now to vote out individuals who have failed at both national and subnational level and vote in people of capacity, competence, and character.
Okay,
You have a lot of civic activism. If you want to think about the NSAS, this was where the whole movement started, and before we knew it, it was spread across cities in the country. If you want to even think about then the Enough is Enough campaign, the fight against fuel subsidy some years back, think about several other movements. There's Lagos is that land that breeds a lot of civic activism. But it's also ironical that while this is one state that is known for as the heartbeat of civic activism, is also one of the states that, when you talk about political participation, records poorly. Not like you don't have elections happening here, not like you don't have politicians emerging as leaders, because you have representatives across board. But when it comes to the participation of the people in demanding accountability, in even voting, it's still really poor and low. And it's one of the states that did not sign the Not Too Young to Run bill. I don't know how many of us have heard of Not Too Young to Run. We have, yeah. The movement, the movement basically moved to reduce the age to contest for office in the Constitution. And we had 33 states that signed yes or signed in favor of that bill. 33 states out of 36. 3 states did not. Lagos is one of the states. And you would think ordinarily, Lagos should be one of the states that would vote yes in support of youth participation, right? But this was one of the states that did not even vote in support of that. So you see, it's like a contrast. There's a lot of positives, a lot of opportunities, but yet we feel that the potentials are not properly maximized to achieve the kinds of results we would have. If we can channel the energies that are channeled into protest, if we can channel the energies that are channeled into all the other sectors, talk about entertainment, talk about IT, think about all the great things that come out from Lagos. If we can take a bit of that energy, take a bit of that zeal and passion and vigor that we have amongst the large youth population, and just move a bit of that into political participation, Lagos can actually change the story of youth participation or even inclusion in Southwest Nigeria and in Nigeria as a whole. And then the women factor, because community organizing, why is it designed for young people? This is especially for women, because one of the things we're beginning to see is that while you also have a lot of women who lead movements, the NSAS, you cannot talk about NSAS without talking about the young women who were at the forefront, providing different services and engaging at different levels. You can't talk about the history of feminist movement without talking about persons like Fumilayo Ransom Kuti. How many of us know her? Or have heard of her, not like know her. You've heard of her, right? If you think about the civil society space currently, we have women who are known for activism that are actually based in Lagos and operating from Lagos. Persons like Dr. Abiola Akiyode, Yemi of Enough is Enough, for instance. I'm just giving you, in the legal this you talk of them, IOB and what have you. However, when it comes to participation in the process, women votes does not correlate with the activism amongst women in the state. So there's still a challenge around young women voting in Lagos State. And when we're planning the youth vote count, I remember a while back, and we're saying, can we get young women to participate in the country? And people said, young women in Lagos would go for retreats, church services, religious-related stuff. But when it comes to music concerts, some of them may not necessarily come unless they are going with their partners, or maybe they are part of the ushers or they have a role. But if it's to come and attend concerts, there are actually more young men that attend concerts. I don't know if that's true. But that was what we got, which was why for the volunteer at the time, so we must get women as also part of the volunteer so that they can reach out to other women. But within all of this, one of the things we're learning is that if Lagos can produce the great women that were part of the NSAS movement, the great women that we see demanding for change and accountability in our political space, then Lagos can also work together to increase women participation in the elections. Not just participation in the elections, but participation in democratic processes. And that is the reason we are here in Lagos. And that is our intro to these remarks. That's on behalf of Yiaga Africa, our board and management. We have our partners UK Aid here. We welcome you to the Community Organizing Training for young women in Lagos State. The Community Organizing Training is an activity under our Turn Up Democracy project. And like the name implies, turn up democracy. Turn up, we're gonna be turned. Yeah, the idea is that we only turn up democracy if we all participate. Every one of us participate. That is the only way we can give life to this democracy. Because when we say turn up democracy, it's like giving life to something. The only way we can give life to this democracy if we all participate. But if it's not participation, if an important section of the society is not actively involved or is excluded from the process, and that is women, that consistently we're seeing a decline in the number of women representation in government, but not just representation, even level of women participation as voters and in different spaces when it comes to political engagement. And that to ensure we truly turn up democracy, we must develop more intentional programs and engage differently to inspire women, to create better opportunities for women to participate, but also for women to become champions of change within this space. And for the next couple of days, we'll be going through important sessions around organizing as a leadership practice, building leadership teams, relationships, building relationships that can influence how we deploy power. And because we believe that everything we do is about networking and relationships in this sense is how you engage with the next person or the people within your community. We'll be talking around what we can do as women in Lagos State towards the next elections to change the story of women participation in the process. But because we also have initiatives, every one of us here had an interest on something to do. I know we have women from political, I think 4 parties are here. We have some people from political parties here. We have some people from civil society background. Some are students or just finished school. We have people who just care about Nigeria. Because the application said if you're a young woman, a young civic actor, someone that cares about change, a member of society or political party, then this training is for you. The idea is that for every one of us with our different backgrounds, our different orientations, our different history, that would meet for the next couple of days, learn a lot about each other, understand what leadership is, and that when we leave here, we would have built solidarity and a sense of community amongst us to go back to our respective communities and effect change. We'll be talking a lot around identity, because identity for us is key. You can't be a leader if you do not know who you are. So there'll be sessions on identity. We'll look at some important feminists that lived before, persons like Margaret Akwo, Funmilayo, Ransom Kuti, Hajara, Gambo, Sawaba. Some of us may not have heard of her. Nana Asmau, the daughter of Usman Danfodio. We always like to come to Lagos, not just because you're the economic hub of West Africa or the land where everything starts and goes to other parts of the country, but because Lagos is quite significant for us, especially for Yiaga Africa working and engaging on youth issues. Lagos has a huge youth inclusion or youth population. Is also seen as the land of big dreams or dreams coming to light or life, right? It holds a lot of hope and prospect for our political space also. It's one of the states with the most, it's one of, what's happening here? Comfort. Why are you causing wahala there? Yeah, it's also one of the states that has at least one of the most, or rather a high number of registered voters. Lagos and Kano are usually the states that give us large numbers of registered voters. So if you want to think about voting population, Lagos has a huge voting population. However, it's also that state that when it comes to voting itself, it gives us amongst the least turnout of voters, Lagos State. And beyond that also, if you want to think about protest movements, Lagos is the land that births a lot of protest movements and agitations for civil rights, inclusion. You're so sorry. Later I will set ground rules.
My name is Ibrahim Farouk. I'm the program manager for governance and development at Yiaga Africa.
So can you tell us about
So today we are starting the second community organizing training in Lagos State. We had the first one in May earlier this year, and we're back again for another community organizing training for young women who are civic leaders, who are students, who are members of political parties across the different local government areas that we have in the state.
Why do you choose this thing? Why the thing? Community. What's the okay? I think the title of your thing for this year is Turn Up Democracy. Why do you choose Turn Up Democracy?
Turn Up Democracy is a project that is being implemented by Yiaga Africa with support from UKAID's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. I think research has shown us over the past few years that the level of trust in democracy is actually declining. Various levels of participation, especially for young people and young women in particular, is also declining. So for us, what Turn Up Democracy is about is how can we increase the levels of democratic participation for young men, for young women within the political parties, within our various communities.
So why do you think we need to build democracy that works in
A democracy that works for us in Nigeria takes into account the various interests of different groups in the society. And for us, one of the very important groups that many times their needs and interests are not taken into consideration is women, and especially young women. And that is why for this training we are focused especially on young women so that we can build their capacity around organizing for social change within their communities. At the end of the training, they'll be able to identify what are the various issues, especially towards the 2023 general elections, that they would like to work on, that they would like to organize around, and we'll be able to support them to carry out some of these various activities in their communities.
What do you think the government, what do you think the leaders should do to ensure that our economy is stabilized and the citizens to benefit from this democracy?
For us, the young women who are seated in this room today are leaders. And during the community organizing training, we say that organizers are leaders and leaders are organizers. And it starts with accepting responsibility. So I think the first responsibility starts with us as citizens, starts with organizers within various communities to identify what are some of the challenges or what are some of the issues, what are some of the things that I can work on. And by building their capacity here today, we are going to empower them to work on some of these various issues.
What are the empowerment
For us, empowerment here is around building their capacity to organize for social change. That is why it is called a community organizing training. They are going to be introduced to new concepts. They are going to be taught how to organize, how to identify issues, how to identify stakeholders, how to ensure that they accept responsibility for some of these issues that they want to work around. For us, that is how we can empower young people, especially young women, within their communities to bring about social change.
Power to formulate policies. And the only way to build and support our economy is based on the policies that leaders develop. And honestly, if we get it, a lot of times we actually have good policies, but when it comes to implementation, there's a challenge. And a lot of times we also have solutions that are not well suited for our reality. So there are two things: one, to have the policies to implement it, but to ensure that in implementing it, that the solutions targeting our economies are best suited to our realities. We can't just transplant ideas and want to implant it here in Nigeria. We need to also ensure, our leaders need to ensure that they are that the decisions they take and the policies they implement respond to the needs of the average Nigerian, not just something that looks good on paper or good when spoken about. We need to be a bit more intentional in developing our economy. All right.
Okay, my name is Dr. Matthew Ayebakuro. I'm a governance advisor with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office.
Can you tell us about the event and why do you choose the theme democracy, turn of democracy?
Oh, well, Turn of Democracy is actually a project that has been implemented by Yiaga Africa. So maybe they'll provide a bit more background to the name itself. But at the FCDO, we are actually really just happy and proud to be supporting the work that Yiaga Africa is doing in mobilizing young people and women, especially as we build up to the 2023 general elections.
So why do you think we need to build a democracy that works in Nigeria?
Well, at the FCDO, the UK government has been a strong supporter of democracy in Nigeria for a very long time. We think that democracy has a lot of promise and a lot of benefits for people. Fundamentally, it's about people being able to exercise basic freedoms, but also being able to organize themselves in ways that works for everybody in society. And we think that as we build up to the 2023 general elections, um, every section of society, from women, young people, people with disabilities, should all be active participants in the democratic process.
So what's your message to our ladies inside? What's your message to them to engage in politics? What do you think they can do to?
I think it's almost cliche when we say that young people are the future of every country, but it's also very true that young people hold the future of their families, their institutions, but also the broader um, country. And so it's just simple. Let them, as young people, own the democratic process. Let them be active as much as possible. Let them be able to exercise those freedoms that democracy provides for them in their aspiration to ensure that democracy is strengthened in Nigeria, but also that they're able to achieve good governance through the democratic institutions and processes that we have in the country.
Finally, sir, what should leaders do to ensure that Nigeria's economy stabilizes and citizens benefit from the democracy?
I think that's a very good point, and that is the reason why we have elections and democratic systems, right? It's to ensure that all citizens are able to make an input into the process to ensure that we have a strong economy, to ensure that education works for people, to ensure that health systems work for people. And it's about ensuring that leaders listen to citizens, get input from citizens, and make sure that they have systems that are not just effective, but also responsive to the needs and the demands of citizens and civil society organizations. Thank you.
My name is Ruhama Ifere. Ruhama Ifere.
What are you looking forward to this?
Okay, so I'm the founder of the Youth Evolve and a community peace builder. And so today we are here for the Yiaga's Community Organizing Training. And as young women, we are participating to be able to get the requisite knowledge and skills that is needed for community organizing. Just as the 2023 elections draws near, there's a need for active participation of youths and also young women being involved in getting everybody to make sure that they get their voters' cards and also show up at on the election days.
Why do you think we need to build a democratic and work system?
Yes, and this is a very good question because right now democracy in Nigeria is at a tipping point, and there's a need for more active citizenry in Nigeria. 2023 is the time where it's going to make or mar Nigerians, and it requires a non-violent approach to be able to make sure that democracy is restored. One of these non-violent approach is making sure that people actually come out to vote, because voting is the right way to promoting good governance in the society. My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. My name is KJ Mary Ololade. Um, I don't know. I feel awesome, and we've not really started. But then the welcome address and the introductory speech by Mr. Matthew was actually very nice, and it was electrifying. It was more like a charge, something to look forward to. So I feel good about it. Okay, so this is like a training for community organization. So as the training implies, or what we set to do is like to train people in our local organization, in our communities rather, in our communities. So I just look forward to being trained. So I'll be equipped with knowledge on how to go back to my community and then train people concerning political issues and how to turn off democracy. Yeah. Okay, thank you.